Então, nesse momento, eu convido o senhor Häfner para fazer uma apresentação do tema que ele trouxe para nós hoje. Por favor, Häfner.
Yes. Bom dia. Hello. It's a great pleasure to meet you all from Europe, Switzerland, now to Brazil, and later be able to discuss with you. And hello also to Marina and Eduardo. I'd like to share a few thoughts about democracy with you. And at the very beginning, I'd like to say that democracy is of utmost importance, more important than many, many, many other political issues. And therefore, it's quite strange that we have, let's say, a Ministry of Finance, of Transport, of Education, of everything, but we never have a Ministry for Democracy or committees for democracy in parliaments and so on. We have nobody that really feels responsible for our democracy. But the democracy is like the basis, the ground. It's like the humus that everything grows in a city, a capital, a state, in any place where citizens live together. So this ground must be sound and solid, otherwise the decisions become bad. And when I say democracy is of utmost importance, why is it so important? It's so important because it asks the key question in public life, in social life, in democratic life. This is the question, who decides? Who decides by what arguments and interests? And for a long time in the past, it was like this, the society. Someone was on top, the king, the Tsar, the emperor, whatever, and he decided for the rest of the people. But we live in a new area, in a new state of consciousness, where we are not the objects of the decisions of others anymore. We are subjects, we are free individuals, and we want to be asked and seen and heard. So we want to share decisions. That is what changed in history, and that is why today democracy is the only form where states, or within, in which states can be founded. So many people are dissatisfied with political decisions. I was also, and I'm still very often. When I was young, I was demonstrating, protesting every week. I was sitting in front of nuclear power plants that were in construction, trying to protest against nuclear power and so on. But what I learned is that I can protest during weekends, then I have to go back to work again, but during the week, they go on constructing the power plant. We all had no say, we had no power. We could just rally, we could demand, ask, make petitions, but other people had the power. So the conclusion for me was not, I need power or we need power. The conclusion was double. One element was, we need to go where the decisions are taken. Therefore, we need to found a political party. We called this party the Greens, and we were quite successful with this. So right now in Germany, we are in some governments, we have majorities in many of the big German cities, in nearly all the university cities and so on. So the Green Party was successful, but at the same time, the other thing that I said to myself and that I did was, we need to change democracy, because it's not enough to say, vote for us, give us your voice, your vote, and then we will do everything for you. This is an old form of democracy. The new form of democracy is, we need to do everything so that people can make their own decisions, can make their own mind. And therefore, I started this movement that is now called Mehr Demokratie, More Democracy. It's a worldwide movement now. I also started Democracy International, which is roof, umbrella organization for democracy movements. And when I talk about Germany and Europe, we could change our country a lot. We could change other countries in Europe. In Germany, for example, on the local, on the regional, and on the state level, we now have direct democracy, initiative, and referendum on all these three levels. And since we introduced it, it was ourselves who made that law proposal. So we made it in my living room in Munich at that time. But then we introduced it, we made 5 years of campaign for it, and all the different, let's say, initiatives, social initiatives, environmental initiatives, and so on, they worked together on this aim because they all understood in order to achieve something concerning the environment, concerning social questions, education questions, and so on, we need to have another form of democracy. So therefore, this is the basic question for all of us. We did these campaigns, we won, and now we have forms of direct democracy nearly on all levels. And since we introduced that, until now, we had 8,100 direct initiatives from citizens. So where citizens set the agenda, citizens formulated the question or the proposal, the bill that was to decide on. And in 4,100 cases, they were successful with that. They managed to get this through. And the average participation in this decision was 46.4%, which is only very little lower than in our federal elections. So it's very many people who decide, and we can show by monitoring. We have a lot of universities that do these monitorings that even if it's 46% average in one decision, it's 85% of all of the whole population that in the end have participated in one or another decision. They don't participate in every decision, although they have the right, but 84% participate in general. So this is a form to transform democracy, and it's extremely important because it changes democracy from a form where it's always about groups. It's always about we, let's say the PT, or let's say other parties, we against them, and if you are for this or that, then you need to vote for us. But people are much more intelligent and diversified today. They do not agree with everything the party says in its program, and they sometimes agree with something this party says, and they also agree with something another party says, but they disagree with other points in the programs of the same parties. So just to give a general yes to one party is not enough anymore, and will be used by politicians and party leaders for purposes that never have been discussed before. Therefore, we need to base democracy more on the issues themselves. And this means, to say it in practical terms, when you then have a campaign, it's not about, are you, let's say, for Bolsonaro or for Lula or Dilma or whoever? It's, are you for this proposal or not? So people discuss the issues. And this is much less confrontative than when it's always our group against the other group. And it goes through the political parties. It's never completely linked to the views of political parties. It's mostly in between. And people start to discuss on issues. They start to discuss on the future of their village, of their town, of their city, of their region, of the land they live in. And they start to develop something like ownership. So in the past, they always were like the objects of the decisions of others. And they always only asked themselves, what can I get? What can I get for me out of this system? But now the question is, how is the system? How should it be? How do we want to transform it? What is my participation? What do I get? What do I give? So it's another form of ownership that you can't just demand, that you can get only when you really take citizens serious and when you allow them to discuss decisions, to take decisions, to make proposals. So when they are on eyes level, that is the most important point. And then this brings up a form of self-governance where you develop a capacity within yourself to not only look at your own interest, but also at the common good. And how can I relate? What's the relation between my view, my self-interest, and the common good? And can I accept that I make a strong proposal, that I have a strong conviction, but in the end, not what I want will happen, but what will be the result of the discourse where everybody has the possibility to be part of and to be part of the decision too. So if we look at these more than 8,000 initiatives we had since we introduced it, it's about all topics in politics, but many of these initiatives are concerning the environment. We just had a very big initiative in Bavaria, the state I myself come from, which has 8.5 million inhabitants in Germany. And the initiative was called Save the Bees, because the bees are dying in Germany, not only in Germany, and other insects are dying. And we need to do something to save these insects. But in order to save these insects, we cannot just do something for the insects. We have to change our agriculture. We have to change, the way we live with nature and we treat the soil and the earth. So this initiative, Save the Bees, was an initiative on important first steps, changes in agricultural policy, in public housing policy, in many other aspects. And some proposals have already been made by the Greens, but the other parties in parliament said no to these proposals. But when it was a public demand, when it was a citizen initiative, then it was not about parties anymore. It was not about group interests. It was about how does each citizen, each individual see that. And in the end, it got so much support that we really could take a step towards changing our agricultural policy. Or to give another example, in Germany, we have 36 cities where the politicians decided to privatize the water supply. And in 36 cases, people used this instrument of direct democracy to challenge this and to say, no, water is a public good. We don't want this to be privatized. It's not something that you can deal with under the perspective of how can I make profit with it. It's there for all the people and for nature. So we want to have a say on this, a democratic say. So let's keep this in the democratic sphere. Let's not privatize. And in all cases, the citizens decided not to privatize. Or to give the last example, right now we have many initiatives throughout whole Germany for cycling. People say we want to gain back our cities because we have sold them to cars and you can't really walk and cycle on the streets because it's all given to cars. We want people to have the possibility to safely and healthy cycle or walk in the cities. So we need to change some laws concerning traffic in our cities. And this is, again, it's citizens' initiatives where citizens take the initiative and then it leads to a change in politics. 10 years ago, I was invited in one small town in Bavaria. They asked me to give a lecture, 10 years citizen referendum in our town. And I said, sorry, I don't think that this is really an issue. It's 10 years gone. Should people really care about that? And they said, no, Mr. Häfner, you don't understand. In our town, we calculate, we name the time the years before the referendum and then the time after the referendum, because our town completely changed. We were like, we had no contact to each other. We just were objects of the decisions of others. Then we had a problem, then we met, then we discussed, then we made an initiative, and we worked for nearly 1 year to bring that through, and we won. And since then, we care about our city. We meet, we discuss what can we do to make our city a better place. So what we are talking about is waking up this possibility that lies in every man, in every woman, in every human being, this capacity of self-determination, which does not only belong to my private life, but which is also necessary for how we take responsibility towards social life. And bringing more participatory and direct democracy is one and a very important instrument to strengthen this and allow this force that lies within people for self-governance and self-determination. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the contributions of Eduardo and Marina.